Now, here's Storm Stories, presented to you by MSN.
It was March of 1966. It was the most monumental event of all time to me.
It was just like a really, really loud roaring sound as it hit the building. The one thing that kept going through my mind is, where's Mom?
I didn't have time to think about anything but, was I going to be killed?
There was no one moving. It was like a movie of the last person on earth.
From the Weather Channel, this is Storm Stories with meteorologist Jim Cantore.
Early spring 1966, Jackson, Mississippi. It's just 3 years after the death of civil rights activist Medgar Evers, who was assassinated on the doorstep of his Jackson home. Across the country, the civil rights movement is front-page news. But in the quiet neighborhood of South Jackson, a few miles south of the state capitol building, those troubles seem far away, especially for kids like 10-year-old Pam Pace and 17-year-old Larry Swales.
It's a time for us to be learning, you know, how to date girls and how we go to dances and, you know, waiting to get our driver's license and waiting to get our first car and you know, all those things that were just so important in our lives.
In South Jackson, the 60s was just your typical middle-class families. Lots of kids, great place to grow up.
But the peace and quiet of this idyllic world will soon be shattered. Far above South Jackson, two air masses are about to clash, bringing untold devastation. Thursday, March 3rd, 4 p.m. It's a warm and muggy afternoon. At WJTV, 27-year-old anchorman Bert Case prepares for the evening newscast.
It was partly cloudy skies as we normally have at that time of the year. But in the afternoon, of course, the thunderstorms started building up in the heat of the afternoon, as they often do in this climate.
The weather doesn't concern 38-year-old Pauline Pace. She and her two young children, Pam and John, are at the strip mall, the Candlestick Park Shopping Center. Strip malls are relatively new across the country, and Candlestick is a favorite spot in South Jackson.
It was the first of its kind in the neighborhood.
Everybody knew everybody in Candlestick. It was just a friendly, small shopping center.
It was kind of like the center of our universe at that time, you know, growing up.
Pauline is drying clothes at the laundromat, while 13-year-old John plays at the hobby store next door. Pauline leaves Pam at the Dog and Suds restaurant just across the parking lot.
I knew the owners. We would go there frequently and got to be friends. They served hamburgers and hot dogs, and they also served regular meals, good Southern meals.
Just a few doors down, at Liberty Grocery, high school senior Larry Swales starts his shift at his part-time job. It's supposed to be his day off from bagging groceries, but at the last minute, his boss has asked him to come in. Working,
of course, was one of those things you just you had to do to have the spending money so you could take that girl out on that Saturday night.
By 4:15, the sky is growing darker. Less than a mile away from the shopping center, 24-year-old schoolteacher Donna Durr and her 2-year-old son Daryl are in their VW Beetle driving home after running errands.
And I remember the clouds seeming very low. And my first response was, I need to hurry home. This thunderstorm's coming.
Back at the laundromat, 10-year-old Pam Pace is trying to talk her mom into joining her at the Dog and Suds.
I told her I would as soon as the clothes dried, but that she better get back over there because It looked like it was going to rain.
I said, you need to go on and go, because she said, it's fixing to rain, and I don't want you to get wet and get sick.
Just as Pam leaves, the manager of the laundromat looks up at the sky.
The manager went to the back door and she opened it. And then she turned around and looked at me with a strange look on her face and said that a storm was coming.
But this is no ordinary thunderstorm. Cold air and strong jet stream winds high in the skies above Jackson are colliding with warmer air below, generating two funnel clouds. The twin funnels are merging into a ferocious tornado. Spewing winds estimated over 260 miles per hour, this twister is growing into an F5, the most powerful category of tornado.
An F5 tornado will pick up a railroad car and throw it around like it was a toy train, like a kid tossing a toy train car. Automobiles, lumber, pieces of steel just become missiles in a tornado of that force.
The tornado is less than 15 miles away and heading straight toward Candlestick. But the shoppers at Candlestick have no idea what's about to hit them. The city's outdoor warning system has not given off any signal. Around 4:30 p.m., Larry Swales carries a bag of groceries to a customer's car.
Once I got out there and put the groceries in the car, I did notice that, it got real eerie, kind of an eerie feeling in the air, and it got real quiet and calm.
At 4:33, a raging tornado is unleashed on South Jackson. Donna Durr is in front of the shopping center when she notices debris swirling above her car.
It looked like birds, just big birds, maybe even buzzards, just gliding, which I thought was very unusual to be over the Candlestick Park. When I looked back down the road, there was the funnel. It was huge, and it was so black. And I didn't have anyone tell me it was a tornado. I just knew.
At the Dog and Suds, 10-year-old Pam Pace is waiting for her food.
It was at that point that I heard someone holler, oh my God, there's a tornado coming.
Across town, a frantic caller alerts newsman Bert Case.
I was paged. I went and picked it up. He said, there's a tornado headed right now at Park Shopping Center. You need to get somebody down here quick. I gotta go now. Boom, threw the phone down. I immediately jumped onto the air and said, we've just received word that a tornado is striking Candlestick Park Shopping Center on Cooper Road in South Jackson. If you live near Candlestick Park, take cover immediately.
But his warning is far too late for the people caught at Candlestick Park. Donna Durr slams on the gas in her VW Bug, desperately trying to outrace the twister. She pulls into the parking lot at Candlestick.
And when I did, I got into some mud. And as I started revving up my motor, I just realized I was stuck. And I just kept racing the motor, racing the motor.
The car wheels spin hopelessly. Then, the tornado slams the shopping center.
And all of a sudden, things just started hitting the car. It was just like someone just throwing bricks after bricks after bricks onto the car. I turned to my son and I said to him, oh no, we're in it.
I thought World War II and a bomb hitting the building.
The tornado sounded like, locomotives, 10 of them or 20 of them, just racing, toward where we were, and it was just real frightening.
Larry runs back into the grocery store screaming, tornado.
Of course, everybody looked at me like in disbelief. You're going, yeah, right, sure this is going to happen, but, they looked at me and knew that I was very scared. They immediately started screaming. They just started running around.
The wind slams the grocery store door shut. Everyone is trapped inside. Next door at the laundromat, Pauline searches for shelter.
My instinct just told me to get into a utility room and lie down. The manager came in with me.
Across the parking lot at the Dog and Suds, her young daughter Pam is frozen with fear as the tornado tears into the restaurant.
It was a roar. I mean, it was just like a really, really loud roaring sound and then a crashing sound as it hit the building. I was scared. I mean, I had no idea what was fixing to happen.
10-year-old Pam Pace is just across the parking lot from her mother. But as the tornado cuts loose, she may as well be miles away. That's next when Storm Stories returns. March 1966, South Jackson, Mississippi. At 4:33 p.m., an F5 tornado roars through Candlestick Park Shopping Center. 10-year-old Pam Pace is trapped at a restaurant while the rest of her family is across the parking lot.
And I just remember just shaking, you know, scared, started shaking, not sure of what was going to happen. And of course, you know, wondering where my mom was and what was going to happen to her, and you know, where my brother was, what was going to happen to him.
As the tornado rages, a waitress reaches across the counter and grabs the frightened young girl.
It was a lady who came and picked me up and put me over the counter and who laid down on top of me, and in some strange way, it seemed to give me a moment's worth of comfort that it was a woman and that she was older, and so she was kind of a motherly figure.
Pam blacks out as the tornado tears through the walls of the building. Across the parking lot at the laundromat, Pam's mother, Pauline, hides in a utility room. But it offers little protection from the ravaging winds of the F5 tornado.
I was on my stomach with my purse on my head, and the wind started dragging me, trying to lift me. I kept thinking, well, this is it. I'm going to be killed. And I hope the children will be okay.
Next door, the tornado rips the north end of the grocery store as customers try to run for cover. Larry Swales is stuck at the front door.
It's just like it's creeping up on you, you know, from the back of the building to the front of the building, and you're trapped and you don't know where to go and you don't know what to do.
The powerful wind blasts out the plate glass windows right where he is standing and then hurls him to the back of the store.
I remember going down the aisles, and I was just flying down through there. I was so scared, and your adrenaline is just pumping so hard that, you know, all you're thinking about is, am I going to die?
Larry slams into a counter at the back of the room and falls to the ground. He crawls up the aisle, scrambling over bricks and glass. He finally reaches a checkout counter and takes shelter.
I remember peering up over the counter and looking out into the parking lot, and I just said, oh my God, it was cars absolutely were picked up, and they were all in this little whirlwind. They were just like paper cups and paper and trash, just, you know, going around in circles after circle after circle.
In the parking lot outside of Candlestick, Donna Durr and her toddler son are trapped in their Volkswagen Beetle.
As I felt the bricks and debris start hitting the car, my son started screaming.
Suddenly, the twister grabs hold of their car and flings it up into the air.
And the winds just picked us up, and we just bounced and bounced and bounced. We didn't whirl around, we weren't blown away.
10 feet into the air, then 50 feet. Debris and glass rain down on the car. 2-year-old Daryl is terrified.
And so I just had to put his little head in my lap, and I was just trying to protect his little face, you know. I never protected myself. I just kept looking.
The churning tornado holds Donna and her son captive high above the ground. Donna can see the landscape below being rearranged.
Then suddenly I saw this brick building just explode. Bricks just went everywhere. And my thought then was, this is it. This is it. I really felt like that we were going to explode.
As Donna faces death, a sense of calm overtakes her.
There was just a perfect peace in this car. It's strange, even as I think back on it, why I wasn't screaming, praying, yelling, crying. There was no emotion except just peace.
Suddenly, the tornado moves to the northeast, beyond Candlestick Shopping Center. The violent winds die down just as quickly as they began. Incredibly, Donna Durr's car lands gently, safely on the ground. She and her son slowly emerge. They have escaped the tornado's wrath with only 2 scratches.
It was just as if the Lord had just picked us up, blew it under, and then just set us back down.
The shopping center is totally silent. A horrifying scene of devastation.
And as I just stood there just for some moments, it was such an eerie feeling. It was like a movie of the last person on earth or last survivor, because there was no one moving. All of the buildings had been toppled over. Everything was flat.
Larry Swales emerges from the grocery store with only minor injuries.
I give God all the glory and honor for allowing me to, survive that particular situation, which was definitely a scary moment in my life.
In the tornado's wake, the air turns cold and torrents of rain pound what's left of Candlestick Park. Inside the demolished laundromat, Pauline Pace has suffered injuries to her head, shoulder, and legs.
I was soaking wet, and I was buried up to my thighs. And I was bleeding. I knew I was hurt bad.
Her 13-year-old son, John, has survived and helps pull his mother to safety. But her 10-year-old daughter, Pam, is nowhere in sight.
The first thing I did was turn around, and I saw the dog and suds was nothing but a slab. Then I accepted the fact right there that Pam was dead.
March 3rd, 1966. An F5 tornado has ripped through the Candlestick Park Shopping Center in South Jackson, Mississippi. Pauline Pace is seriously wounded and must go to the hospital. She is certain her 10-year-old daughter Pam has not survived.
I should have screamed for Pam, but I felt like that was what I had to do, was to accept the fact that the storm had killed her.
Amazingly, Pam is alive. A rescue worker finds her buried under mountains of debris.
I wasn't real sure if I was dead or alive at that point. There was a metal beam laying on top of my chest. I mean, it was pressing on my lungs.
It isn't until the next morning, when Pauline comes home from the hospital, that Pam is reunited with her mother.
I just felt such relief. I just grabbed her and I loved her and I loved her. And I kissed her.
Back at Candlestick, WJTV newscaster Bert Case surveys the destruction.
Candlestick Park Shopping Center looked as if it had been bombed. And there were the pecan trees just laid over in neat order right along the path of the tornado, as if some giant had come through and laid them out for planting.
The tornado's deadly path across Jackson and beyond has left 57 people dead. The survivors include Doris Freeney, the Dog and Suds waitress who saved Pam Pace.
I told Miss Freeney that I would never forget what she had done. I felt so grateful, and she was such a good person.
Candlestick Park Shopping Center was rebuilt 4 months after the tornado. But for the residents of South Jackson, it was never the same. The memory of the tornado could not be erased.
They were so proud to have their own shopping center, the people down there were, and it never really recovered.
It kind of makes you feel funny now that look back and see, you know, what it was then and what it is today.
Even today, if you talk to someone who lived in that area, in that neighborhood, the tornado just about always comes up. People don't forget it. They just don't forget it. It doesn't go away.
The tornado that struck South Jackson in 1966 still holds a spot as one of Mississippi's top 10 deadliest twisters. We'll tell you where it ranks when Storm Stories continues. The F5 tornado that struck Candlestick Park Shopping Center ranks as the 6th deadliest tornado in Mississippi's history. It stayed on the ground for 75 miles, crossing 4 counties and causing more than $18 million in property damage. The deadliest tornado to hit Mississippi struck Natchez in 1840. That twister killed 317 people. For Storm Stories, I'm meteorologist Jim Cantori. Your local forecast is next.
This is the worst storm in the history of the
Thank you.